Welcome back. Joining me on the show now, just after Morocco Omari, is Lee and Margot from Smart Toto. You know, many times I try to explain what these good causes are, and then I get myself in a jumble. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you, ladies first, to explain to us and the viewers, what's Smart Toto?
Smart Toto is a youth-led social enterprise that focuses on early literacy development. So most people clarify us as being under education, but we mostly only focus on early literacy development. That is beginning from 0, or in most cases from 6 months, when the baby is 6 months in the stomach, all the way to about 12 years old. Okay. So those first early years, we focus on training them how to read, write, and spell, and also getting them to fall in love with reading. And this is a Ugandan NGO, right? Social enterprise. Social enterprise. Yes. What's the difference, Lee? What's the difference between a social enterprise and an NGO? And if you don't know, you can kick it back to her.
I'll let Margot answer that one. She's way more clued up.
First of all, I think we've met before. Yeah. And you're originally from Manchester.
Manchester, England.
And they call you Mancunians. Mancunians.
Yes.
Ah, fantastic. So you came all the way from Manchester.
Yeah. Now I'm toning my accent down for you.
You are?
I'm toning it down.
No, come on, man. Well, you're not doing a good job. I have to listen, and listen carefully. But I'll get there eventually. So, Smart Toto is a social enterprise. Yes. And it mainly focuses on literacy. From the ages of literacy development, from the ages of 6 months.
Minus 6 months.
When the baby is 6 months in the stomach.
Right.
So what the activities that you can do when you're 6 months pregnant, all the way to 12 years.
Yes.
Yes. So from 0 to 12.
So what do you do the 6 months in?
So it's when you're pregnant, by the time you're 6 months, the baby starts recognizing the voices around and all the actions that are happening. So as a parent, as a caregiver, if you're in line and depending on the future that you want to form for your child, when you start reading books, when you start reciting numbers, letters, listening to certain music, all these affect the child when they come out. So that's why you find that at 1 year, some children can read and some can't read, or by 6 months, some children can recognize words and some can't, because of the activities that you did while 6 months, from 6 months onwards, really. Can you teach older people? Because there's some people on this set who don't read my WhatsApp messages. So maybe we could bring Smart Toto into the group chat and we talk about literacy. Yes, we can. We can.
Yeah. Reading in particular.
Yeah, and reading.
So how did you get involved? All the way from Manchester. It's a long way away.
Yeah.
It's in the north of England, right?
Exactly, yeah. I came here about 12 years ago.
Yes.
A friend of mine who I was doing business with at the time introduced me to Uganda, and I never went back. Well, okay, so I went back, but then I came back again, and then I continued to come back.
Right.
And then at some point I met Margot.
Right.
She was doing events, so then we got our heads together, and we started a company called Exquisite Events, which we specialise in corporate team building.
Right.
From there, we share the same passion regarding giving back and early childhood development. We're kind of into the same sort of things, so it was easy for us to combine what we were currently doing with our team building and start Smart Toto, which was, like you said before, a social enterprise. My interpretation of social enterprise, I suppose, is to say that we're community development based. Okay. We employ the youth and we enable the youth with our platform to be able to impact in their community, specialising in early childhood development and obviously creativity, inspiration, all of these things that we feel is needed in the villages and in this world today, which is ever changing.
So Margot, give me a little brief on how it actually works in terms of the network. How do you Lee's talked about impacting the youth, employing the youth, allowing them to grow the network of Smart Toto. Yeah. How does that actually work?
So what happens, first of all, we start with creating relatable content.
Right.
So we make sure that all the books African children can relate to them, depending on the country that we're in. For instance, now we're in Uganda. So we pick the border. We pick a girl who looks like an average Ugandan girl,
Yes.
and then write a story on that. And then the story has to have a strong message behind it. So for instance, this is a story dedicated to all those who believe that I can, empowering children to believe that I can be anything that I want to be.
Yes.
After we've picked the story, we employ the youth. So the editing is done by the youth, the illustration, the graphic design, everything.
When you say the youth,
Yes.
you know that 80% of our population are youth.
Yes.
So when you say youth, are you speaking about under a certain age, or you speaking, because 80% of our population is under
The
30?
youth. Yeah, but now mostly we're looking at people who have just left university,
Yes.
people who are young, ambitious, and then creative, and people who are driven by passion and a need to create an impact in their communities.
Right.
So from after creating the books, then we go on further to develop what we call the libraries, the community libraries.
Okay.
Then again, when it comes to the furniture, to the design of the library, to the design of the literacy manuals, everything, again, we look for fresh graduates who are in the same field with a need to create impact. And then from there, we go in the communities, build the libraries, carry out the trainings. Now, when it comes to the communities, as much as we're focusing on early literacy development, we also look at the parents. Because you know it very well that there is no way a child will fall in love with a book if the parent doesn't love reading, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's not part of the home, because children do not listen, they imitate. Everything that we do is what they turn out doing. So what we do is that we carry out...
Could you maybe help me with my children? Because when I go to sleep, I want them to imitate me and go to sleep, but they don't go to sleep. So how can we sort of make this our joke exercise?
Yeah. But also that goes back to early years of development.
Yes.
So when we're in the communities, we carry out trainings that mostly focus on the parents, grandmothers, caregivers, influencers of these children.
Yes.
One, because we want them to understand that the environment that we create for our children ends up affecting them. Yeah? And also for them to appreciate the fact that everything that you do with a child before they're 6 years old is what they turn out to be when they're 18. Here we have that culture of when you're 18, you're expected to act a certain way, to behave a certain way, but you were never groomed in that way. For instance, I'm expected to give a speech at 18 and look at people in the eyes, but when I was 6, I was not expected to look at the adults in the eyes because then that's offensive.
So the saying goes, charity begins at home.
At home,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. Mhm.
So for us, it's very important that parents understand that the most important years of their children are the ages between 0 and 6 years old. So we pass
Right.
on that message and then encourage them using positive psychology, because all of us at the end of the day want our children to have a better life. So then we ask them, what do you want your child to be? Do you want them to be a doctor, a president, or anything they want them to be? And then it's more of, what do you think those people's parents did that we're missing out on? There is this great saying by Maya Angelou that do the best that you can until you know better. When you know better, do better. So that's what we assume when we're in the communities, that maybe they're raising their children from the perspective that they know. So if we add a little bit of knowledge to that, then we do believe that their impact in terms of early literacy and exposing children to reading can actually develop and increase.
We'll be right back after the commercial, where we'll talk a little bit more with Lee and Margot on Smart Toto.
My name is Margot Hasfa, founder, Smart Toto Publishing Limited. This is us. 2.5 years ago, we started by writing authentic African stories to encourage children to fall in love with books. 1.5 years later, we opened our first community library. This year, 2019, in partnership with 2 Belgian companies, Tiger Power and Close the Gap, we are launching our community e-hubs in Chenjeje District, Uganda. Community e-hubs are containerized, solar-powered centers that promote social development. These e-hubs are able to power over 200 houses, power the millers, power the doctors, and power all the schools. These centers are also training grounds for early literacy development, digital training, and hands-on skilling for both the youth and the adults in these communities. With the community e-hubs, we are looking at community development throughout the lives of these children, because 15 years from now, Patrick and Henry are going to be the youth in these communities, coming from flourishing communities, well invested in during their early years of development. And then 30 years from now, these two little boys are going to be empowered parents with the right skills, the right mindset to cause transformational change in these communities for years and generations to come.
On December the 8th, 2017, in partnership with Stanbic Bank, we launched our first community library here in Impigi at the Kalikay Casamay Foundation. Over the course of the year, we have recorded attendance at over 800 kids and 400 adults. We have also been involved in local awareness campaigns targeting a reduction in defilement cases in Impigi.
We want to work with you on every level of this project. If you're passionate about early literacy development, if your passion is digital training, if you feel the need to join our mission, if your organization is drawn to our cause, then please join our vision, join our story, work with us, and together, let's empower communities.
Welcome back to the Cedric Live Show. I'm here with Lee and Margot discussing Smart Toto, a social enterprise that actually focuses on learning. There's another word.
Early literacy development.
Early literacy. Now, a question I have, Lee, for you is, I actually have two questions. So I'm going to ask you these two questions. First of all, how big is your social enterprise? Where are you actually situated in the country? Where have you got to in terms of reach?
We have a number of libraries in Uganda. One in particular, which is nearby, is in Pidgey.
Okay. It's not very far, it's up the road.
Yeah. And then we have another one in Fort Portal as well, which was a recent one. We have 7 libraries altogether, but we've kind of evolved the libraries, and now we're calling them pop-up libraries. You know, they have quotes on the wall. I mean, Margot can obviously.
What his meaning to say is that with our libraries, we're very intentional. Mm-hmm. So when you walk into the library, the first thing that you see is on the wall is the shelf,
yes,
which is the word read itself.
Yeah.
One, it's very important that for the little ones below 3 years old, we don't believe they are reading,
okay,
but they are learning to assimilate and associate with letters.
Yes.
So the moment they walk in and there's 4 letters on the wall, they are learning to recognize these letters. Yeah. And then the ones who can read, who are learning how to read between 6 and 3, then they can start playing with the words R put with E and A. What does that mean? It means read. Then the ones who can read, then can read, and the word itself is inviting you to read. Then inside this shelf, you have relatable content. Then on the walls of the ceilings, we have very inspirational messages. We use positive affirmations because we believe whenever we are stuck or anything like that, we look up to the sky for God. Mm-hmm. So in our libraries, every ceiling, you have things that, yes, you can. You're made of greatness. You're here to make a change. We believe in you. Keep going. Things like that. Because every time they're in a library or they're having a bad day and then they look up and see a message like that, it's like God is talking to me. Somebody out there is talking to me.
Positive reinforcement. So, quick question. You have seven libraries at the moment.
Yes.
So you have a franchise model of sorts where you go out and you empower the youth in that particular community, yes, to run that particular library.
Yes, they're more like CBOs.
What is a CBO?
Community-owned, community-based organizations.
Oh, community-based organizations.
So we partner with organizations that are already in the communities doing different kinds of works, and then we come in and empower them with educational materials, literacy, and learnings in that field.
Right.
And then we leave them to run that to keep as an addition to what they're already doing.
How many kids have gone through your program, this Smart Toto program? Do you have a figure, or
Yeah.
it's sort of like an ongoing process?
We're probably up to around 8,000 at the moment.
8,000?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a lot of people.
It's huge,
Yes.
yeah. It's amazing that we can impact, or at least, you know, have these books and our training, our libraries accessible to so many kids.
How old is the organization, just as a matter of
3
interest?
years now.
3 years.
Yes.
So some of these kids have actually grown up. They've, you know.
Yeah, some of them have actually, some of them have passed the P7 because of, and excel very well because of these trainings from the libraries, because in the libraries they learn how to read, they learn how to spell, and then they learn how to write. And this is the foundation for any subject or any
Right.
form of excellence in life. And then also with the libraries, what we've done is that now we've scaled it up. That's why
Yeah.
the numbers have increased, because now we've gone into more of community e-hubs that are
Yeah.
solar-powered containers. So
We had some challenges, obviously, partnering with NGOs that were currently doing work in the community.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're limited with how many NGOs are doing work, firstly.
Right.
And then also we need a space as well. We need a safe, secure space that the kids can come and play and
'Cause of the
interact
kids.
with the library. So we've obviously evolved from our early libraries to where we are today. And we're starting a project next year, which we're calling Community E-Hubs.
Community e-hubs.
Community E-Hubs.
What are those?
So to sum an e-hub up, is basically a solution that we came up with. Obviously we have a technological revolution now, technology is becoming a lot cheaper, solar panels are cheaper.
Right.
You know, we have containers available here in Uganda.
Yes.
We came up with a design that enables us to put solar panels on top of a container.
Okay.
And then obviously we have a 40-foot space underneath, which we can convert into a library. And then obviously all we need then is the land, because we have the 4 walls, we have the power.
Yeah.
And then we can go into, you know, developing tablets that can be preloaded with
Yeah,
educational.
with the information, yeah.
Or we can have tablets that can link up to the internet, or, you know, we can share the educational material via the online, via the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
So then it, you know, it puts us in a position where we can really scale up and really have an impact. And I think this brings me to mention, or I should mention, about the 1 million books to 1 million kids. So I think it was 3 years ago? 3 years ago we started a campaign, 1 million books to 1 million kids. And
Yes.
obviously now we've probably enabled 8,000, possibly more kids to have access to the books. Now this year we want to ramp it up, scale it up, and spread the message a little bit further with our e-hubs.
Yeah. And just a bit on the e-hubs, so they have space for digital literacy and then space for early literacy training. But even the solar panels on top, they are able to power all the schools around the e-hub. Then they're able to power over 200 houses in that particular community.
That's a very powerful solar panel.
Yes, that
200
is
houses.
yes, over 200 houses. Then power the businesses. Let me say the millers around. So then you're not just doing early literacy, you're also developing the economical and social development of this particular community as well.
So my question is this, you know, when you talk about all these things, there's something that's going through my mind. Do you want to guess what that is?
Yeah, the funding.
Yeah, how you know, if you, how are you able to afford, or basically, I know there are grants, there are donors, but again, that's sort of, you know, if you get it.
Yeah.
Well, you
Right.
know, we had the concept a long time ago, 3 years in fact.
Yes.
So before we go and bring anyone in to fund a project, we always feel like we have to make sure that it works first.
Okay.
So we funded it ourselves through exquisite events, through our corporate team building, and then it became our CSR. So, you know, we have other companies like ourselves in Uganda that have a policy of giving back.
Yes.
And we've also approved pilot projects where we can tap into that local funding.
This is massive. You know,
Yeah.
you're talking about a hub that powers 200 homes.
Yes.
And how many schools you said?
About 5 schools.
5 schools.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and then
that's
about
a lot
5
of
millers as well.
expenditure. The other day I was trying to get a quote for solar on my house. I said next salary, in the next, I'll wait maybe next year before I look at this thing again. So it's not cheap.
It's not.
So how, I mean, I know exquisite events. I've seen some of your work, I think, posters and things like that.
Yeah.
But you guys must have some special events if you have enough.
No, but if you look at the benefits to the company, for instance, the e-hub, once you put this e-hub in the community,
Yes.
you're improving the social development of the community.
Correct.
So then what does that do? It also affects the business. Let me give an example. If we were to partner with a financial institute, let me say a bank,
Right.
and they came on board, one, they have branding rights, so that's already marketing. Two, they're enabling early literacy development, so that's social corporate responsibility, which ties into education.
Okay.
Three, once you improve and give electricity or anything like this in any community, development comes. When development comes, then you have exchange of money, then you have circles, you have saving, you have people opening banks, you have a lot of development that takes place. So it's an investment for them that they get returns on. Because what we're looking at growth 20 and 30 years from now.
So the whole ecosystem sort of develops itself after a while with,
Yes.
Exactly.
with the youth and the job creation and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great idea. I mean, it's not idea, it works. I mean, I'm reading this book, is it Amani, the Border? Actually, it's my son's name.
Yeah.
Which is quite good, you know. And yesterday, or a couple of days ago, I went to see, well, I was invited to listen to the launch or watch a launch of something called Go Zembo. Have you heard of them?
No.
They're basically a solar-powered border.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
the bike is
Yeah,
charged.
yeah,
You've heard of them, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So, you know, from a pollution perspective, from an employment perspective, in terms of giving border riders access to this border over 2 years, where they can pay for it, you know, and the impact was in the environment.
Yeah.
Because whilst borders are a necessary evil, we don't like them, but they have to be there.
Yes, definitely.
Because that's just the way it is, you know. So it's very much in line with your solar project
Yes.
on the e-hub. So where do you see yourself or yourselves 5 years from now as Smart Toto?
Well, I think with the e-hubs, obviously moving into technology, that's one thing. The books are always going to have their place. You know,
Yeah.
kids at a very young age love playing with the books, and then they can progress on to using computers and tablets at their own pace.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's important to have that available to kids of today's ever-changing world.
Yes.
You know, to enable them to be able to write CVs,
Yeah.
be able to come and get jobs in Kampala, and who knows beyond. And yeah, I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah.
These kids can do anything. You know, we've spent so much time in the villages, seeing how amazing the kids are, seeing the
Yes.
potential. You know, Uganda is full of entrepreneurs, it's full of creative people, artists, you know, the list goes on with how many talented people we have.
We do have a lot of talented youth. Sorry we have to leave the show today.
Yeah.
But it's been great having you guys on the Cedric Live Show, talking about your social enterprise, Smart Toto. God bless in terms of what you're doing. And I hope to see a lot of your hubs in the next couple of years. Thank you for watching the Cedric Live Show. And a big thank you to our guests, Margot Lee and Morocco Omari. See you next week.